Have you ever smiled through a conversation while your heart was completely breaking inside? Have you ever carried a weight so heavy that it physically ached? Yet you had to pretend everything was perfectly fine because no one else could possibly understand? There is a unique kind of exhaustion that comes from fighting a battle in absolute silence. It drains your spirit. But what if God is doing His most powerful work in the very silence that feels so isolating? Picture the cold, dusty stone floor of the temple in Shiloh. The air is thick with the smell of incense and burning sacrifices. But for Hannah, the world has completely stopped. She is kneeling there, completely shattered, carrying a silent battle of barrenness and relentless mockery that has slowly worn her soul down to nothing. She is weeping so bitterly that her body shakes, her lips moving frantically, pouring out her agony to God, but no sound comes out. It is a battle so private, so utterly exhausting, that even the high priest Eli misunderstands her, thinking she is drunk. He looks right at her and completely misses her pain. The isolation in that moment must have been absolutely crushing. Maybe you felt exactly what Hannah felt in that temple. Perhaps you are carrying a burden right now that you can't even find the words to explain to the people closest to you. You are moving your lips, crying out in the quietness of your bedroom, but nobody else hears a thing. You show up to work. You take care of your family. You smile at church. But inside, you are fighting for your absolute life. The silence feels like a heavy blanket. But just like God saw Hannah's silent tears, He sees yours. He is intimately aware of the war you are waging in the quiet. The first promise God makes to you in the middle of your silent battle is found right at the very beginning of Psalm chapter 46. It is the promise that He will be your immediate, impenetrable sanctuary when you have absolutely nowhere else to hide. Psalm chapter 46, verse 1, declares, God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. I want you to really think about that word for a moment. Refuge. A refuge isn't a luxury resort. It isn't a place you visit when life is easy and the sun is shining. A refuge is a military term. It is a fortified stronghold, a heavily protected bunker that you run into when the arrows are flying, when the enemy is advancing, and when you are completely out of options. When you are fighting a silent battle, your mind often feels like a battlefield. The anxiety, the fear of the unknown, the heavy depression, they come at you like relentless waves. You might feel like you are standing wide open in the middle of a crossfire, completely exposed and deeply vulnerable. But God is promising to be your safe house. He doesn't just offer you a refuge. He is the refuge. And notice how the verse describes Him as an ever-present help. That means He isn't a distant commander watching you struggle from a far-off balcony in heaven. He is right there in the trenches with you. Maybe you've stood where the Israelites stood, backed up against the Red Sea with the Egyptian army closing in, feeling trapped by your circumstances with no visible way out. In those moments, your silent battle convinces you that you are entirely alone. But God's promise is that He is already present in the room with you. When the panic attacks hit at 2 a.m, He is your refuge. When you get that devastating phone call and the floor drops out from beneath you, He is your strength. You don't have to be strong enough to fight. You only have to be willing to run into His arms and let Him shield you from the storm. The second promise God gives you is that your world isn't going to fall apart, even when every single thing around you feels like it is crumbling into dust. Listen to the sheer magnitude of the imagery in Psalm chapter 46. Verses 2 and 3. Therefore we will not fear. Though the earth give way, and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea. Though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging, imagine the terrifying reality of an earthquake. The ground beneath our feet is the one thing we subconsciously trust to remain stable. We build our houses on it. We walk on it. We depend on it to hold us up. When an earthquake strikes, it is utterly paralyzing because the very foundation of your reality is violently shaken. The ancient people reading this psalm understood that terror perfectly. The mountains were symbols of permanence, power, and unshakable security. To imagine them plunging into the chaotic, roaring sea was to imagine the absolute end of the world. In your silent battle, you are probably experiencing your own personal earthquake right now. Maybe the career you built your life around is suddenly in jeopardy. Perhaps a relationship you thought would last forever is fracturing, or a health diagnosis has completely pulled the rug out from under your feet. The mountains in your life, your finances, your stability, your plans for the future feel like they are slipping into a dark, chaotic sea. The anxiety roars and foams inside your chest. But God promises that because He is your refuge, you don't have to fear the collapse. The circumstances around you might be shaking violently, but your soul is anchored to a foundation that can't be moved. God is holding you together when you feel like you can't go on. He is the stabilizing force in the center of your spinning world. You might lose things in this season. You might face transitions that are incredibly painful and difficult to navigate, but you won't be destroyed. The earth may give way, but the hands of the Creator who formed that earth are holding you tightly. You are safe. Even in the middle of the shaking, the third and most profound promise in this entire passage is that God will fight the battle for you if you will only surrender your exhausting need to control the outcome. This brings us to the climax of Psalm chapter 46, the verse that is so often quoted but rarely understood in its full, raw power. Verse 10 says, "Be still, and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth." When we hear the phrase, "be still," we usually picture a calm morning with a cup of coffee, reading our Bible in a quiet room. We think it means to just relax and take a deep breath. But in the original Hebrew language, the command translated as "be still" is rapha. It literally means to let your hands drop. It means to slacken, to let go, or to drop your weapons. God isn't just telling you to quiet your mind. He is commanding you to stop striving. He is looking at you, covered in the dirt and sweat of your silent battle, exhausted from trying to fix everything, exhausted from trying to defend yourself